Hey there, I'm Jill Griffin, and this is the Career Refresh Podcast. I'm a former media and marketing executive turned career strategist and strengths coach. I spent my career working my way up and through the ranks of global organizations and startups. And today, I show others how to do the same. Join me each week as we discuss the strategies to leverage your strengths, increase your confidence and visibility, and reset your career with actionable steps towards a finer future. Ready? Let's do it. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm glad you're here. It is hard to believe that it is the middle of December and that we are getting ready to finalize our first season of the Career Refresh Podcast. If you had said to me a year ago that I was going to research and create a podcast series wholly by myself, I wouldn't have believed you. Crazy what we can do when we focus and intentionally put our minds towards something, right? I have a few more episodes in the works to round out the season, so be sure to check those out. And let me know if there's anything you want to hear or you want to go deeper on. Email us at hello@jillgriffincoaching.com, and I'll also put that link in the show notes. Okay, this week, the topic is about building trust. Maybe you're approaching year 2 of working remote in an environment where you only see people face-to-face on occasion, if at all. And that makes it really difficult to gauge our colleagues' intentions and values. Or perhaps you're on a team where you're new to a job, or maybe you've recently been elevated to a new role. Building trust is the basis for everything you do, and it's essential for your success. In any work environment, you need trust for all sorts of reasons at every level and at every title. And if you don't have trust with your teammates, you're probably not going to feel comfortable with bringing your ideas forward, and it's going to impact everything you do. You and your teammates may struggle to support one another or openly share on ideas or opinions. There may be competition or confusion, and overall, decreased productivity. You'll be less open, you'll take less risks, and there's a chance that you'll impact your future career opportunities and your relationships. Have you ever worked in an environment where the teammates don't trust each other? It's like a mixture of the executive Hunger Games meets Jedi mind tricks. It's a really tough environment to be in. Everyone is solely looking out for themselves, and there's a lot of sharp elbows. I once worked on a team that had a high level of responsibility and an equal level of mistrust for one another. Leadership eventually got everyone in a room and told us, "This is it, guys. Get in here and work it out." Everyone was to contribute what they were going to stop, start, and continue doing. It's really weird at first to sit in the room with everyone. And then our executive leader went first. He shared his vulnerability and he cracked the facade. And it was such a brilliant and tremendous display of leadership. I have enormous respect for him. Slowly, people began to shift a little bit in their seats. The shift was one of relaxing shoulders, and the tension seemed to start to drain out of the room. And then they went around the table, and one-on-one, each person followed along with what they were also going to start, stop, and continue. And then something ridiculously powerful happened. People began giving and receiving feedback in a friendly and constructive manner. It wasn't mean-spirited. It wasn't finger-pointing. It was feedback that someone could actually implement and impact change. The feedback was there to assist. The team eventually shifted into a much more open and trusted, barely like a positive place within a very few short weeks. You could really feel it in meetings. Our output was more collaborative, leading to much stronger results. And even our clients commented on the shift in perspective and deliverables. Aaron Meyer and Reed Hastings of Netflix fame wrote a book called Netflix, The No Rules Rules and the Culture of Reinvention. The book is a great read, and it's especially a great read if you work at what I call an old guard company. The old guard is often driven by lack, security, and fear. There's a competitive that doesn't produce results, it just produces chaos. And one of the concepts in the book, which I love the idea, is that feedback is the cornerstone of building trust. And you build trust through what they call the 4 A's framework. So I'm just giving you a high level. Again, if you're interested, get the book, Netflix, The No Rules Rules and the Culture of Reinvention by Erin Meyer and Reed Hastings. So when giving feedback, you focus on the first 2 A's. First, you aim to assist. Feedback must be given with positive intent. Giving feedback in order to get frustration off your chest, or intentionally hurting another person, or furthering your own political agenda is not going to be well tolerated. Second, your feedback needs to be actionable. It's focusing on what the recipient can do differently. And when you're receiving feedback, you focus on the remaining 2 A's. You appreciate it. I know, just bear with me. You appreciate the feedback, and you're going to need to fight the natural inclination to be defensive. And instead, ask yourself, how can I show up with appreciation for this feedback? And by carefully listening, consider the message with an opened mind. It is about having a growth mindset. And then the last A in receiving feedback is you accept it or discard it. The Netflix way is that you're going to get a lot of feedback and you're required to listen and consider it, but you are not required to follow it. You get to say thank you with sincerity, but both you and the provider must understand that the decision to react to the feedback is totally up to the recipient. So again, those 4 A's, starting from the top, are aim to assist. Feedback needs to be actionable. That's what you do when you're giving feedback. When you're receiving feedback, you appreciate it, you accept or discard it. I think it's brilliant. It's huge. If you can imagine, what if we were able to influence and create a culture that was able to implement and activate the 4 A's framework? Your effectiveness as a leader or an individual contributor will be measured on your ability to connect, communicate, collaborate, inspire, and empower others. Building trust is probably the most important capital you have. Trust is built slowly through repeated and consistent performance. And in traditional leadership models, trust is all about you, your mission, your style, your point of view, your flair. It's your show. This approach falls so ridiculously short in today's marketplace because it ain't all about you, people. If people think you are always care more about the impact to yourself versus the impact to others, it's going to be really hard to trust you. Today's leadership is about creating the capacity for others to be effective and to empower them to implement change. Leadership at all levels is about ensuring that the work gets done and that the priorities move forward, even when you're not in the Zoom room. So the only way to do this is to build a foundation of trust. Your energy, the language you choose, will help shape your trustworthiness. Making it all about you is a common mistake at both junior and senior levels. You think that you've been selected for a role, and what I see all too often is that you make it your show. Yeah, we want your excellence, your brain, your inspiration, your charisma, your vision, but we also want a culture of inclusion and belonging. I recently worked with a client who said that she struggled building trust with her team. She was often dinged for this personality trait when it came time for performance reviews. And on a sidebar, if you've been listening for a while, you already know that I think annual reviews are lazy, a time suck, and demotivating. They're lazy because we should be giving feedback regularly, and we don't because we think the behavior will improve on its own. They're a time suck because everyone runs around the last 4 weeks of the year or the fiscal deciding whether to give someone a rating of consistently meets expectations or always exceeds expectations. And then the recipient is wondering, why did they get a 2 versus a 3? Does this improve or help anyone improve? It doesn't. Okay, back to my client. Many of her challenges stemmed from making everything about her. And she repeatedly told me that she doesn't have nor want empathy. That would make her weak. The fascinating thing about her behavior was that she said she didn't care that she was known as being difficult, argumentative, defensive, and combative. She believed that since she was in charge, they all needed to get in line and follow her lead. There's an expression about power over or power with others, and she was firmly seated in a belief that she needed power over others. Over her tenure, she was less and less effective, and her leadership style resulted in continual turnover, really bad morale, decreased revenue and profits, and overall, the department was really suffering. And she told me that this was only a problem now because it was impacting her bank account. I find this fascinating that she wasn't concerned with her behavior. I don't believe her, by the way, but that she was only concerned with the results that she was creating. She said she didn't care about the impact she had on other people because it was a job, not a hobby. Again, I had so much compassion for her because she was in this fear-based mindset and a fixed mindset. Through our work together, she began to see that she only thought she didn't really care. She actually spent most of her time at work anxious, concerned, afraid, and worried. She was stressed all the time. You could see it in her face, you could hear it in her voice and her actions. She kept asking me how could she be more confident so that she could be successful at her job. She was eager to fix it, but in the beginning, she didn't want to look at the reasons for why she was continuing to act this way. My client's logic was that she was just going to decide to not do it anymore. She was done. It was over. She said she was just going to bite her tongue and say nothing. And I joked with her that, yeah, that's like putting an octopus to bed. It's going to come up somewhere. Good luck with that. If you don't know the starting point, how can you remeasure where you're going? Through our work, she finally came to realize that changing the behavior, she needed to get clear on her thoughts and feelings that she was having in order to understand the actions that she was taking. She began to uncover the various microaggressions that she was exhibiting all day long that were coming from fear on her part and anxiety, but they were also breaking trust with her team. So in order to build or rebuild trust, it's so important to know what actually breaks it. So here are a few common ways in which you may break trust with your teammates. You're distracted in Zoom meetings. This typically happens because you're a quick read, you're a quick start, a quick learner, and you got it. You got it quickly and you moved on mentally. But not everyone is as quick to get it as you, and they now see that you're disengaged. You think being transparent and authentic means you have to share exactly what you are thinking. Well, I'll offer you that sometimes it's not effective to share everything you're thinking. And you're not being fake. You're just pivoting based on an advanced self-awareness. Let's say that someone says something to you that you find off-putting. If you think you need to respond authentically or with transparency, okay, but what if you're just overreacting? Self-awareness can help you filter and get to a professional response that you don't overreact. When you're doing something in a new way, say, rethinking transparency, it's going to feel awkward at first. It's not going to feel authentic until you practice it and find sort of a neutral executive presence that feels authentically yours. And if you want more on executive presence, check out episode 42. I go a deep dive on that topic. I'll put that link in the show notes. The third way that a microaggression may show up in which breaches trust is that you continue to shut down your camera in a culture where its cameras on is the norm. Another way is in group settings, you're always on your device. And if I looked over your shoulder, I'd see that you were like scrolling through Twitter or checking email. You've let the group know that you'd rather be somewhere else doing something else. And this solve is put your phone away and give your team the attention. Or don't go to the meeting if you have something pressing and you can get out of it. Another area where I see people breach trust is that they roll their eyes or they make audible sounds of like sighing to show your annoyance with something. You interrupt and talk over people, and you have the need to be significant, yet you don't offer the same courtesy to others who may have the same need. You know how you create significance? You make someone else feel significant, and there in return, you become significant. It's a cycle that spirals upward. When you give it, you get it. So I worked with my client to create a framework for rebuilding trust that she could then measure herself against. And when we looked at where she was, we were ensuring that she was reliable with her words and actions. She was accountable for her mistakes. She was operating at a high level of integrity, continually to work on being non-judgmental and being in reciprocity, giving people the benefit of the doubt, thinking the best of others versus the worst, a generosity of spirit. She did weekly evaluations on her behavior, and that awareness created the change. And I have so much love for her, and I'm pleased to say that she is back on track, as is her team's performance. She did a ton of work. I really am proud of her. And she showed us all that change is possible. So, all right, friends, that is what I have for you this week on building trust. Before you go, I want to let you know that I'm launching a career strengths group coaching program that will help you leverage your strengths, get clear on your skills and values, plus help you create a career narrative. And all of that is essential, especially if you are looking for an internal opportunity, interviewing for a new job, or making a career change. I'm going to put the link to get on the list for more information in the show notes. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Career Refresh podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast and you want more career and mindset tips, get on my email list by going to jillgriffincoaching.com. I'll also put that link in the show notes. But before you go, please rate and review this podcast, as it helps me get the word out to people everywhere so they can also thrive in the workplace. I'll see you next time.